If you read theory, read what intellectuals who are banned from Western media. Listen to Kwame Ture. Listen to writings of Black intellectuals and people that they don't want you to hear about. There's a reason why they don't want you to hear about them. And Jimmy actually have a great quote. I love Jimmy's quote on this. If you was a liar, they're not scared of you. They're scared of you when you tell the truth. So there are people who are banned, the people who they don't want you to read and listen to. Read those people because they got critiques that will change the way you think about things. Things would be better if they were more focused on what actually politics is. Legislation, foreign affairs, diplomacy, material conditions. And if you look at the underlying content of what RBN is about, that's all our content.
Hello and welcome to another strong edition of The Last Review. This is your host, Sergey Fenswick, not my real name, and we have another special episode ahead as we both cover and interview one of the best citizen journalists and activists in modern media, Nick Cruse, and his revolutionary Blackout network. How are they controversial yet so right all the time? How are they reshaping new media today? Let's have a look. When people argue against the left, they often cite Joe Biden and his policies. It doesn't matter that Joe can't finish the sentence effectively, let alone a platform of policies. It's pretty obvious by now that decisions are coming from the capos in the DNC mafia, who are already bought and paid for by corporate interests, just like their higher-up counterparts on the right.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to put
People may also point the finger at AOC or the Squad as the leaders on the evil and ubiquitous left. However, any principled person on the left will quickly point out the Squad's failures to live up to any of their promises and their quick subservience and deference to the queen of corruption herself, their mama bear, Nancy Pelosi. They, and those who run cover for them, Kyle Komsky, have proven to be just as corrupt as anyone. Not a lot of people want to address the real concerns of those who have a legitimate foundation in the political left. Maybe it's because those concerns are more about class. Maybe it's because those concerns are more about the truth than there are any left or right dynamic. Maybe it's because people would then have to confront and come to terms with the wisdom of Nick Cruse and Compton J at the revolutionary Blackout network. From the seeds of Substack and independent YouTube channels, the Revolutionary Blackout Network, aka RBN, was born when co-founders Compton J, Rome, and Nick Cruse joined forces in early 2021. It was an organization comprised of Black activists and citizen journalists providing political education, community outreach, mutual aid, and get this, self-defense for the working class. They didn't care about participating in round 58 of the culture wars. They cared about justice for the working class. The organization does so much that it defies definition. Their brand of citizen journalism may very well be the future of journalism, period. While there's another episode to be made about the network as a whole with JB and Rome, or the incredibly active and inspirational Sabby Sabs, this review will cover the enormous amount of near-daily live streams and reporting of current events from Nick and Compton J, aka CJ, and their Nick and CJ show. So how does RBN rate as it passes through the analysis matrix? Well, for the accuracy category, RBN's Nick and CJ earn a 23 out of 25. Mediaite was so intimidated by these independent journalists and their brazen regard for the truth that it tried to smear them as propaganda or unreliable. However, say what you want about Nick's outspoken nature, it doesn't change the fact that they are extremely accurate and on target with their assessments on war, international matters, corporate greed, and politicians months ahead of time. While some news folks propped up presidential candidate Marianne Williamson and tried to create Bernie Sanders 2.0 for progressives, RBN interviewed and scrutinized her views so much that she accused them of mansplaining and had a mini meltdown.
But I talked to the Palestinian Community Network, got a lot of Palestinian allies. They will not find that to be an acceptable answer. It's one
well,
state.
I know.
I don't know. Have one state where everyone have equal rights under the law. because that's been shown many and many times. So I hope you have conversations with Sunday Palestinians. That's a hard no.
Well, wait a minute. Wait. No. Let me speak.
I just want you can respond to that as well, but because
contest here of you're telling me you know Palestinians and I don't, so that doesn't work for me.
That's a fair point, but I'm telling you.
So the point is, right now,
on the Palestinian.
See, if you're not going to let me talk, honey,
we are having the conversation.
No, we're not. No, we're not. You're doing a lot of mansplaining here, and you're telling me what is.
When Elon Musk was portrayed as a free speech warrior and liberator for the people, RBN expressed skepticism and were proven right by some of Twitter X's suppression of many voices that still exists to this day. Nick and CJ are never afraid to go against the grain if that's where the truth leads them. Nick and CJ have also been extremely accurate and ahead of the curve on the Russia-Ukraine war, COVID, workers' rights and strikes, Israel-Palestine, and the nature or direction of individual politicians and even the reporters who cover them. Nick is more likely to make a bold, clever proclamation ahead of time, and CJ is more likely to make an insightful, decisive analysis of what something means as it happens. They complement each other's styles. The only thing keeping them from a perfect score in accuracy is that they cover what they're passionate about. So, some topics just aren't on the table as much as they could be, if at all. They may not cover or may not know some peripheral events or characters. For authenticity, RBN's Nick and CJ break the matrix with a 25 out of 25. Their honesty is, at this point, their trademark. They are impervious to influence. When presidential candidate Cornel West rose in polling over the summer and was perceived as a major candidate, West chose to visit RBN's live streams on several occasions. A respected big-name candidate was friendly with them on the road to a major election. But this didn't stop Nick and CJ from balanced reporting and analysis, pointing out some of his campaign's missteps along the way. Almost needless to say, West does not drop by as much anymore, but RBN marches on. Furthermore, on their authenticity, in a debate over RFK's presidential viability with Craig Pasta Jardula, Nick could have gone for cheap shots or easy points about RFK's credibility. Nick wasn't looking to just win, though. He preferred real, substantive conversation and the truth. He brought out fact after fact of RFK's weaknesses and hypocritical stances. And when Pasta got upset with the label Nick bestowed on RFK supporters, Nick did something that had to be seen to be believed. Nick didn't dig in or even double down. He admitted he went too far. That honesty changed the tone of the debate. It went from a debate to a discussion. Authenticity won out. In the originality category, Nick and CJ land another strong score of 24 out of 25. Their nuanced takes on politics, viewing events through the scope of class, produces bold perspectives. Their idea to branch out into mutual aid and helping out individual communities is also unique. Not every journalist has to be an activist, nor should they be, alright? But it's the further proof that these guys walk the walk. They are a productive, helpful voice in the national conversation. Anyone on the air quote left that people on the air quote right should follow for a strong, original take, it should be RBN. For the Intrigue category, RBN and Nick and CJ end up with a 20 out of 25. Their format is structured enough, and their explorations of the day's news events are enlightening. However, the live streams still have issues with pacing and scheduling. They still may need some bells and whistles to their programming. This score may improve as the organization and their resources grow. Overall, the Revolutionary Blackout Network and Nick and CJ earn a final score of 93 out of 100. On a daily basis, they investigate and explore the biggest issues in the country and world today with unflinching honesty. Are they too left, as establishment watchdogs would have you believe? No. Are they unreliable? No. Are they so accurate in principle that they may make people nervous? Yes. Citizen journalism is on the rise, and RBN is leading the way on how to do it effectively. They're not only paving a new path for their class-based and workers-based movement, they're paving a new path for modern media. And now we'll hear about what it takes to lead a movement and avoid the potholes and pitfalls of modern media's previous pathways in this exclusive interview with Nick Cruse. Nick Cruse is a prominent citizen journalist and co-founder of the Revolutionary Blackout Network, or RBN. It's an organization comprised of Black radicals, activists, and citizen journalists providing political education, community outreach, mutual aid, and self-defense for the working class since 2021. RBN features live streams almost daily with breaking news, interesting stories, and major interviews. Nick, thank you so much for being here.
What's poppin', my friend? Thank you for having me on.
All right. Now, your organization and live streams are changing the industry and media landscape, in my opinion. We're starting to see self-made YouTube channels that rise up based on just consistent principles and honesty. And you're inspiring many others to avoid supporting just one side or one person or one leader. You're not playing team politics. My first question to you is, what led you to live streaming and citizen journalism?
The fact that it's so rare, the fact that it's rare that there's a principled post-duopolist network. Well, they definitely existed before, but try to find a prominent channel featuring young Black Americans that wasn't either a Democrat or Republican grifter, because
Right.
there was a lot of Black Trump supporters who made a lot of money telling white Americans what they wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had Black liberals who made a lot of money telling white liberals what they wanted to hear. And there was this frustration. And these are like conversations that like maybe like me, Sabby, Rome, JB, and a lot of like Black lectures we would have among each other. Like, man, all independent media sucks. Generally. Like you see the people we have on, these are the people we don't think suck, but generally it all sucks.
Right.
Even the people who call themselves independent media, they fall for duopoly propaganda. Like you had TYT pushing. I remember this something I saw early where I was like, damn, even independent media stuff when they were pushing the lie over the Syria war, where Jane, for example, smeared Julian Assange, because when I was a teenager, I was never a big TYT guy, but I knew him. I was like, all right, when I thought independent media, you think TYT, right? Especially on the left. And
Sure.
then the second I actually got into it, I was like, oh, they garbage. I didn't realize how horrible these people are. I just gave them the benefit of the doubt because of reputation. You know what I mean? Like they had a reputation, so I'm like, all right, I guess they decent. No, they actually was very not much so. And then remember, this all going on as I going through my own political development as well, more of a social democrat, more into reading theory. I got both. It's funny, me and CJ have like the same kind of story where he saw the Malcolm X movie and he became obsessed with Malcolm X. I didn't see the movie. I still haven't seen the movie to this day.
Oh,
I don't know what started, but I became obsessed with Malcolm X. I started reading a lot of his clips. And one question I had that never made sense to me why other people didn't reach the same conclusion, I'm like, what happened to this thought process in our community? Like, it's rare, like, to come across anyone who thought like Malcolm X. I'm like, where are these people now? Like, and I studied history. My first Substack, I wrote about how the Black community shifted from a Black radical tradition to Black neoliberalism. That's my first ever Substack article I ever wrote. So it's something that I was very interested in, and I got into media because of that. Like we found JB and Savvy because of that, because it's either you had to be a Black liberal or a Black conservative. That's all that. There was no lane. So I guess in a business sense, like in a more capitalistic sense, like you look at the market, there's nothing in the market there. There's no Black radicals. There's no radicals in the media sphere, and it drove us crazy. So we took a Hail Mary and we started RBN, but we didn't know how it would catch fire like this. We knew it was a good idea, but that void that needed to be filled is exactly why we took off the way we did, right?
So yeah, there was no lane there, so you created your own lane, basically. Yeah.
Another thing to that point, because that's a good way to put it, I was doing citizen journalism before RBN. I worked on the Bernie campaign. Sabby did. had a
Oh.
channel before she joined RBN. Like she was a journalist beforehand. Rome did mutual aid before RBN. CJ had a show, Straight Out Politics, before RBN. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people don't know this. We never got any invites. No
Mm.
one would ever invite us on. Like, and I had a decent platform on Twitter. Like, I never got invited. Like, I give a lot of credit to Nico House,
Sure.
and a handful of people that invite me on back in the day. So my mindset was like, all right, if we're not getting platformed by nobody, we platform ourselves, and that's literally what we did. We platformed ourselves, and now I got invites. We go on shows. That we go on the hill. Now it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy to think about now, right?
Yeah, for sure. But really, stuck out to me about RBN, and what showed me what you and RBN are all about were I can think of two instances that were pretty recent, that just I think it just put you above just about anybody else. The first one was this. You were on the Jimmy Dore show, and it was at this point he was just starting to get a little bit upset with Cornell West for not speaking out as much. It was during the Anderson Cooper interview back in like August, and your response was to tell Jimmy that you did not fault anyone for asking more out of their politicians. And that told me right away, it's like, oh, you're about the movement. You're about truth. You're not about one guy, one politician, or we have to, maybe tread carefully around, one leader. So that was, for me, instant credibility, especially because those were plenty of tense moments between Jimmy and Cornell. Yeah. But the other one was a debate with Craig Pasta, Jardula. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. You guys debated over RFK. You took him down with fact after fact after fact, and you didn't resort to name calling either. Like, like RFK's opened himself up to a lot of, for that. So instead of calling RFK any kind of loony name, you took him down fact after fact. And then there was a really
credit to Pasta. Credit to Pasta. Pasta's not calling out RFK.
Yeah.
And also credit to Pasta for coming on and challenging me on something, because I'll be people willing to do that. Not many. And Pasta he came in hostile territory. He went to RBN to challenge me. So big props to Pasta, and he's intellectually honest, because he's not still on the RFK train. He may have taken a path I disagree with. We were friends before, we were friends now. But it shows how intellectually honest he is, that he heard our criticisms. He see that RFK is not following the example that he laid out. So credit to him.
But there was one moment in that debate where it's going to sound weird, but I thought it was like just ingenious in its own way. He got upset with you calling people cultists at one point, and your reply was, well, sometimes I'm a hothead. And that just let out all this pressure and steam in the room. You completely disarmed him because you were just honest. And on top of that, you were saying, well, I'm not going to, if I said something out of emotion, I'm not going to stand by that to the bitter end. That's just something I said, people
are human. There's that human emotion. And if the sign of someone who's not good faith is someone's not willing to admit they're ever wrong, like I'm 100% willing to admit that whenever I have a take, or if I say something out of emotion, I apologize to people in my personal life all the time. Like, I will say something like, damn, sorry, bro, I should have said that. Damn, sorry, Masha, and may lax out there. So I think that's something that you learn with age. I learned that as I got older, gone through conflicts. Honestly, dude, people feel much better. They just fucking apologize sometimes. Take a step back so you take two steps forward. That's something I learned. It took me too long to learn that, but it actually helps you in those situations. You know what I mean? That's why I'm not generally afraid of conflict. Like me, Rome, and CJ, we all had conversations with each other where we were yelling at each other, screaming, and we talked to each other. I love you, brother. I apologize. I love you, brother. Let's move on. And that's how you grow. So,
I mean, it's a little bit harder to do these kind of things in live streams, all right, and no editing involved. So, when it comes to discussions, I really feel you are a master at arguments and discussions and getting your point across. I really have not seen anyone like you as far as the the combination of passion, honesty, and just knowledge, just a wealth of knowledge. Whenever you go into this, you come armed with so many facts. So what I want to know is just tell me about your mindset, your philosophy, or your prep when you deliver the news or when you get into a debate or a discussion.
And this is the way CJ feel as well. That's why I have a hard time understanding why people are in this space when they're fake. Because if I'm talking about something in the news or in politics and I'm not passionate about it or I'm not feeling it, it's like so draining. I feel like I might as well be in the office. You know what I mean? I might as well be back in sales. Like, why am I talking? Like, like, for example, like the culture war. Like, whenever I'm forced to talk about like abortion, all this shit, I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ, I don't care. Like, am I allowed not to care about certain stuff? Like, that's how I feel. But with that mindset, when I do care about something, though, when I am passionate about something, I'm all in. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like there are people, and there's no need to call names, but there are people that do this as a job. You know what I mean? So, damn, I got cover Israel. So they do like the half-ass version of them covering Israel. They're like assignments that they have. They feel like they obligated to stuff. But when I cover Israel Palestine, I cover that because I'm passionate about it.
Right.
When we cover Black history, we can be passionate about it. And because of that passion, I'm looking up and down all throughout that issue. And I'm obsessed with reading about it. And then whenever I reach a wall on something, like I will have like the theoretical debates in my head. Like I'm like, all right, this is my position. What if someone said this? Damn, fuck, I don't know what to say to that. Let me research. That's how my mind. I hate being checkmated. So I would have a position, and then the second I feel like there's a weakness in that position, damn, let me go back to the lab. You know what I mean? I'm a martial artist. That's how we learn. Like you throw a jab, you throw a 1-2, you throw a jab and 1-2 in sparring, you get countered. Damn, I thought I knew how to do jab 1-2. That's how I view politics. Whenever I am stumped, like I'm like, what? How did I get stumped? I thought I'm right here, right? So I'll go back and look, and I will learn, from my mistake. And that mindset is what created my transformation from like a average liberal social democrat, because I couldn't reconcile the ideals. Like, for example, I wanted to cheer for Obama. Like,
sure, yeah.
I would say now, as a criticism of my earlier self, like there's a lot of tribalism there. Like I couldn't have the first Black president lose. Like I couldn't have him fail, and that's why it took me so long to see past him. But once I couldn't reconcile him bombing hospitals, you know what I mean? I couldn't reconcile him keeping Guantanamo Bay. Like that's like me unable to reconcile the thing. Like, I would debate someone. I would debate a right winger on Obama, and I would destroy them easily. Right now, I would debate someone on the left on Obama. I'm like, wait, what? So now I can't live with that. So I moved on. And then there's a point where I like Bernie, right? And this is where I was more of a social democrat. Then I would get liberal criticism of Bernie, and I would destroy those people because liberals did not critique Bernie. Then I would get the left criticism of Bernie, Michael Prenti. I'm like, damn. I heard what Chris said about Bernie. Like, damn. Don't know what to say to that, man. So then I look into stuff and I learn more about Marxism and the left criticism of social democracy. It's just, to make a long answer short, is a constant evolving of your views, and there are people that do something that I will never understand. I will never understand this, and these are people who usually turn to partisans. They will reach that wall that would leave me in shambles, and they were like, "Fuck it." I know I'm wrong here. I know I don't have an answer to this. I'm gonna just ignore it. I legitimately don't understand that. Like, if I am stumped on something, that would be an existential crisis for a very long time, so I can figure that out. But people, they put blinders on. They don't care about their hypocrisies, and they just go forward. So I just generally don't. I can't relate to that. I guess I'm blessed in the sense that the way I am allowed me to thrive in this space, because there are a lot of people who are not lucky. They're not privileged. They're not good looking, who just like a David Pakman or someone, they're not going to make it because they're boring. But people like David Pakman, they're going to make it because they're wealthy, they're relatively good looking, and they're just a general vain vibe that make them successful. Like Hassan Piker is one of them. Like Hassan Piker fans will even admit that they don't think he's smart, but they like him because he's attractive. So if you want to get into this game and you want to be lazy, you better hope you hit the genetic gold mine, Because I'm not a sex symbol. I'm more than happy to admit I'm not like a sex symbol, super attractive person. But I got my platform because of my intellect, and I take pride in that. So unless you're very attractive, unless you got something that can draw people in, like a lot of successful people have done, you're gonna struggle in this if you're not willing to be intellectually consistent, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure, sure. So no, like, I guess no formal training on broadcasting or debate or anything like you just kind of develop, you just research, you dig,
That's why
and
I had teamed up with people like Savvy and CJ, because Savvy and CJ is more productive training. Like if my original channel, we all had tech issues all the time. I had no idea what the hell I was doing.
mm,
I didn't start my YouTube channel until people on Twitter like recommended me to do it. And then people like me, you need to get on YouTube, you need to start broadcasting your thoughts, 'cause I think you do well. And I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna try. And it was a painful learning process, learning how to do this. So no background. Debate is just like Kansas City is a city full of shit talkers. Like I grew up in big family. So
mm,
after debating my brother for years, after debating my cousin who's really witty, like these
mm,
average, privileged suburbanites in politics are nothing to me. They
mm.
are sheltered. They're not used to going through conflict. They get a ton of anxiety. They start sweating when shit get real. Meanwhile, I'm like, bro, this is me and Rome, CJ. We used to this conflict. We used to the back and forth. It's like the barbershop talk as we call it. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
And you've done extraordinarily well. Not just in terms of debate, but like I'm just overly impressed by how accurate you are and how right you are and how early you are with being right. Like you and CJ in particular, I think I watched the most from you guys out of RBN, the Nick and CJ shows. You guys are live streaming so many different afternoons and evenings. There were a few examples of accuracy, and I don't know if you want to speak about them or not, but but they showed me how much insight you've had along the way, and I want to mention them and then kind of ask you about how you're doing it. All right. So first, shortly after the sale of Twitter to Elon Musk, I think this is a bold stance because there's a lot of independents that kind of gravitate towards Musk. He's kind of maverick type, I guess, right?
it.
Now, but you were outspoken about Musk, like almost right away. You kind of called him out that he's not going to be some grand free speech liberator. And for his intelligence or talents or whatever, he's just, I don't think it hasn't panned out. He's not a free speech liberator. We now see people being suspended or shadow banned all over again for ridiculous reasons again. And this time it feels like it's more on the left than the right. And along with their whole freedom of speech, not freedom of breach line. I mean, all these things where he's kind of backed down from free speech completely. And like you called that out. I think you had a screenshot of some tweets he had back in March about it. So, and then there was RFK. All right. Every independent. Now, I think he's getting more establishment types to back him now. But like there were a lot of like truly free thinking independents who were really jumping on the RFK Jr. bandwagon. All right. But you quickly isolated his stance on Israel and Palestine. And you said this is a bridge too far. It's almost like you could see it. You could see it becoming a huge, massive issue. And you're like, no, we're not going to follow this train of thought. And then you also stopped Marianne Williamson in her tracks and pretty much called how weak her campaign was.
Funny. Now that you list them all, it's funny.
So I mean, these are huge names too, and you have consistently been on the right side of these issues and of these people. So because you're right so early and so often, to me, you've become an absolutely trustworthy go-to source in new media. So I guess my question boils down to is this. All right. How are you calling things right months ahead of everyone else? Do you have any methods or a philosophy or way you look at things? How are you able to kind of be as accurate as you can, as you are?
The people who fell for all those people, that's what happens when there's no class analysis in your politics. What's one thing all those people got in common? They have nothing in common with the working class people.
Mm.
Now, there's people who resist Marxism, and I actually appreciate the political diversity of mine and that follow me. I don't expect people to be Marxists and that kind of stuff. But all this stuff is easy to predict once you read theory. People are skeptical of reading theory. We explain class dynamics. Like people, it's crazy. People have no idea what authoritarianism means. People have no idea what that means. People use the word all the time. I have no idea what it means. When you understand that capitalists are the ultimate authoritarians, when you understand that they will engage in authoritarian violence and they will crack down on free speech, for example, they will do anything they can to protect their bottom line. These predictions become easy to make. So, for example, when you understand class dynamics, you understand that RFK Jr. is a Kennedy, right?
Right.
You guys think that he's going to abandon the societal benefits that he got from being a Kennedy? From being protected by his class. There's something he was questioned, but these are things among his class that he will question. He will never ever fight something that is critical, like Israel. So I would want to be proven wrong on him. Like if RFK passed all these things, I'm like, man, that's a rare example of someone breaking free of class shackles. But the reason why we canceled RFK Jr. immediately because when he fell to Israel Palestine, I'm like, I got you, because that's it. Why can't you get that right? And remember why I say there are things that people go through issues with blinders on? They refuse to do what I do, why I go through these hard reconciliation process on things I'm wrong about. There's a reason why people in the upper class, there's a reason why capitalists can't do that, because their class interest is strictly reliant on them going through life through blinders. So that reason inherently makes RFK Jr. untrustworthy and make him a fraud. And if you get Israel-Palestine wrong, that leads to a myriad of things. What does that mean regarding your Syria policy? Because Israel's been bombing Syria illegally for years now. So Israel's been bombing Lebanon. And if you don't know these foreign policy things, it's easy to be tricked by someone who's a puppet of the empire. Every single president has been hard on Iran because they are a puppet of Israel. Israel wants the United States president to be hard on Iran. So RFK Jr. then came out and criticized Biden for being too soft on Iran, despite the fact that the exact opposite is true. So these things are, once you understand foreign policy, especially Israel, it's easy to predict anyone who gets that wrong. Regarding Marianne Williamson, okay, let me go back to Elon because there's a lot you broke down there. Elon was easy to predict because Elon Musk was a shit lib. Like people forget about this, and people forget about how capitalists operate. To Marxists and to socialists, the idea that capitalists are free-flowing people who engage in business out of the kindness of their heart, their business is a reflection of their personality, that's absurd to us. It's absurd. At every single second of every single day, a capitalist is marketing you. At every single second, every single day, they are marketing you. They are finding a way to increase their stocks and their shares. So Elon Musk was a shit-lib Barack Obama supporter for years. Why was he? Because that was the trend. Young people like Obama. It was very popular to be an Obama supporter. So he was an Obama supporter because that's how you market your business, how you appeal to the most people. So then there's a wave of free speech absolutism online. And you see a lot of right-wing capitalists pick up on this. And I'm not talking about like just ordinary people. I'm talking about people with a lot of money. Like people who pay for advertisements, for example. Giant capitalists who their number one issue now is free speech. So if you are a smart capitalist, the best among the capitalist class, what do you do when you see a big opportunity, a big market open yourself up? People want to give people money like the Pillow Guy just for simply saying they support speech. You do a character change. All of a sudden, you turn yourself from a shit lib, I gotta fight climate change, I'm the climate change warrior. You change yourself from that to the free speech warrior to get the right wingers on your side.
Although we'll put an asterisk after warrior, free speech warrior, because that comes with exceptions now, I guess. Yeah.
And one of the things that I mentioned when RFK used to pretend he was a free speech warrior, one of the things I used to mention when Tucker Carlson and many other people used to pretend they were free speech warriors was I was like, what about Israel Palestine? Right. And people thought I was just being like a contrarian because there's many instances on the right of people cracking down on BDS laws. Ron DeSantis made BDS illegal. Like as he was doing the right wing free speech thing, he was banning BDS. I'm like, are the black Marxists and black imperialists, are we going to be the only one who not call this out? So in general, I know there was a long answer because there's a lot to break down there.
Yeah,
there's a politics of rhetoric versus the politics of material. When we talk about politics and Marxism, we talk about nothing but the imperial. The material, also the imperial, because we talk about imperial regimes, empire, material politics, right? For whatever reason, in our politics, and also in European politics, and I can probably make a theory that it led because capitalists generally don't have large disagreements. Their politics is all about cultural feelings, right? So, even if you're not doing anything on free speech, like even if you for cracking down on protests, I noticed all you gotta do is just market yourself at free speech and people believe you. So I know it seemed like it was like a good prediction to predict that Elon Musk was a fraud on that, but to me it was obvious because to me it was once you get the pressure from the what you guys think gonna happen? A billionaire gonna fight against the people that are upholding his companies via shares? You know, there's like a hierarchy, like he's not really in control, in charge. So once he take the reign, I'm like, if once he really get the pressure, like it's easy to say you're gonna be for free speech when you're winning, but what happens when the capitalist talking points are overran? And it was easy to sound anti-establishment during COVID, for example, like Elon Musk and many people did, because there was a capitalist split in COVID. Like the capitalist class didn't necessarily agree on how to approach that. But if there's an agreement on an issue, like on Israel-Palestine, like the police state, like Medicare for all, like healthcare, like many other things, there's going to be no dissent allowed. And this is basic Marxist principles that we use to overthrow and turn over the talking point that socialism and Marxism is authoritarianism. No, it's actually capitalism, because there are certain tenets that capitalist societies forces on the societies, and if they ever speak out against that, they'll be canceled by capital. Elon Musk has so much capital flowing in that he can be canceled by capital. What happens is advertisers flee. That's the weaponization of capital. Now, this is a much larger scale of what everyone go through. Like if you are a member of the professional managerial class, you have capital that is weaponized against you, like the people who are fired for speaking out against Israel, who have comfy office jobs. So you just apply this principle and you multiply it to a grander scale. Trump will never be a friend of the working class because there are too many capitalist interests that could attack him. Too many capitalist interests that will attack Elon Musk. So the best thing they will do is naturally revert to their class friends. So I know that's a very long explanation. I apologize for that.
No, I love the breakdown.
I was trying to explain. Yeah. I was trying to, in a short way. I don't think I did a good job, to be honest. But I was in a very short way trying to explain theory on why it's easy to predict the things in hindsight. And the last person you mentioned, Marianne Williamson, millionaire white woman, with friends with Oprah. Like, why do you guys think these people are gonna break orthodoxies that must be broken? What do people mean when they say they're anti-establishment? Are you against the general established culture? Because if you make it in this system, if you're a millionaire and billionaire, you're more likely to be entrenched in the established cultures that must be overthrown, the way of thinking that must be overthrown, because you wouldn't have made it otherwise unless you are naturally ingrained in these thought patterns, right? But anyway, I'm talking your head off. There's a lot to say on that. Generally, just and if I had to sum up the question real quick, you get things right if you have class analysis. If you read theory, read what intellectuals who are banned from Western media. Listen to Kwame Ture. Listen to writings of black intellectuals and people that they don't want you to hear about. There's a reason why they don't want you to hear about them. And Jimmy actually have a great quote. I love Jimmy's quote on this. If you was a liar, they're not scared of you. They're scared of you when you tell the truth. So there are people who are banned, the people who they don't want you to read and listen to. Read those people because they got critiques that will change the way you think about things. The Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, their philosophy will change the way you think about things to the point where it's not even possible to fall for RFK. But go ahead, I'll pass back to you, brother.
Well, it's interesting you bring up Jimmy, because like you and RBN and the Jimmy Dore show have a lot in common in terms of just being incredibly accurate and calling things right away. Yet both his show and your entire network get targeted or even called out for being inaccurate or unreliable. Like the one Mediaite chart or graph or whatever that if they want to put you toward the left, fine. I think I almost think that you're kind of, I don't want to identify you as one thing because you speak to the truth to so many different issues. So I don't even look at you as left or right. But if they want to say that you're left, that's fine. But then they put you down on the scale for, I think, accuracy or reliability or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself,
So petty.
Where have you been wrong? Please point out the inaccuracies in RBN because I'm just not seeing it. So
the insane thing is, sorry to interrupt you, but I really want to expound on this point. Glenn Greenwald speaks about this a lot. When you look at the people who are ranked on top of that Mediaite chart, they actually do zero original reporting. You guys realize that? They do the same thing we do. We do so for some reason people are like, oh, you're just a jack off to stream on YouTube at home. You guys know I do the same thing Jake Tapper does, but I actually do original reporting because I report on the Palestine rally. So actually, I can play it both ways. Let's say I just do what Jake Tapper does. Because what Jake Tapper does, he takes people who already report stuff and he adds a spin to it. That's every corporate media outlet. That's every single media in general, except people who do original reporting, investigative reporting, people like the Gray Zone. I don't know, like going to a rally and interviewing Palestinians like I did. That's original reporting. And the reason I bring this up is because if you look at the Mediaite chart, I read the criteria. They rank the people on the top for original and what the exact word they use for high effort. That's exactly what high effort original reporting is what go on top. Meanwhile, we are on bottom. They said we did low effort, unoriginal reporting. Okay. So what's more high effort to you? Being a pampered news host like Mehdi Hassan, like Joe Scarborough, who has writers, people who write stuff for them, people who do research for them, people who literally put the graphics up to them and put segments together for them. You guys know the only thing they do, they go on screen, they just read the script. Right. What we do is that we write every segment, everything we do out. We do multiple original reporting on RBN, but you notice how in Mediaite, they flip it.
Yeah.
And I know my argument, I will admit this because I'm intellectually honest. I will admit that the way I feel is not mainstream. Most people don't view it this way. Most people view it like the Washington Post, CNN reporter as hard worker. But I view independent media as more credible. Like what we do, like how much work it takes for us to prepare a live stream. When you look at the work that Savvy does for her live stream, it takes like if I like those long presentations, it takes me like an hour or so to put those together. I'm looking at sources, I'm fact checking myself. It's very high effort. Like no need to brag about it because it's not the hardest job I had. I'm not saying it's the hardest job I had, but it does take a lot of effort to put these things together. Meanwhile, on MSNBC, you got some jack off in a coat that's just reading something on a teleprompter that someone who worked under them put together for them. But they're more reliable. Like how's that? How's that? Anyway, I'll let you continue.
Well, why do you think you're? I would argue that you are being targeted at times. So I don't know if or at the very least smeared. Why do you think that happens? Is it because you're so outspoken and then so right and you challenge establishment narratives, or is there something deeper? What's your take on how they go after you like this?
Dude, my crew didn't believe me when I told you. I told them when we first started, like, bro, wait till we get 5,000 subscribers. Wait till we get 10,000 subscribers. If you are a black radical in this space, why do you think there's not a lot of us? Because not a lot of people can take this. If you're a black radical in this space, we get so much shit thrown at us. Like, not only from the obvious white racist who hates our ideals, you have liberals who undermine us, do subtly racist shit towards us, launch smear campaigns against us. But then you have black liberals and black conservatives that go after us. It's not an easy route to take. And I later embraced this when I went through my breakup with the Bernie people. And if you guys ever wonder why I have so much maliciousness towards the progressive movement, because I saw how fake they really was. Like there's so many people in the Bernie campaign, like for the great examples, like Neil Turner used to follow me. All these people in the campaign used to follow me. They all know who I am. They pretend they don't now. They all know who I am. And not only did they pretend they did not know who I am, as there was vicious smear campaigns done against me. People lying about. I remember there was this rumor. A lot of people on YouTube probably don't know. I remember there was people spreading lies on Twitter that I committed sexual assault. I'm like, what? They're like people just make up fake shit, and people don't know. People get into this space, and like me and Cyber said, like if you get into space, you gotta have thick skin, bro. Like people don't have. People had no idea what is thrown your way if you are speaking out against both parties. That's why most people retreat into like either Democrat, Republican, because if you do what David Pakman does and you're just a Democrat, you're gonna have Republicans and everyone else hates you, right? But at least you're gonna have like the safe space to fall back on, and where you're gonna have opposing Democrat. When you radical, when you speaking out against the general culture or society, you are the burden is upon you to defend your position to everybody. And then the people who can't handle the fact that you can do that will then attack you and your character. And this happens to Jimmy Dore all the time. And there was a coordinated effort to get Jimmy and RBN to fight. And we didn't take the bait. And I know you and a lot of people in the audience know this as well. There was a very coordinated effort to get us to fight. But I didn't take the bait because I know it's the same enemies that Jimmy had was the enemies of RBN attacking Jimmy because he was critical of Bernie and the squad. You know what I mean? I saw there were the same, and there were people who attacked Jimmy because he's critical of wars. And I know it's kind of smart enough. The same people that were attacking me were the same people attacking Jimmy. So I'm like, there's something there. There's not. You guys are not mad at Jimmy for what you guys are claiming you're mad at Jimmy for. You guys are mad at Jimmy for what he's saying. His message, and CJ did a stream about this. He did a stream talking about how Jimmy didn't change and these people changed. He literally played like old conversation between Jordan Cheriton and Jimmy where they just get along like 70 pounds. And now Jordan Cheriton pretends that Jimmy's the worst person of all time.
Yes.
Dude, personally, just because we just in an interview here, like Jimmy's cool, man. Like Jimmy's like one of the chillest people. Who else with a large channel propped up our General Strike Summit? How many people propped up Savvy's Woman Summit? Went on JV channel, helped Rome's Library. So, like in life with anything, there are general disagreements you have with people. But Jimmy has shown time and time again, even though we may have disagreements on some cultural things, for example, that he's legitimate because he wanted to back up grassroots struggle. While you had TYT, Jordan and many people smearing the March for Medicare for All, Jimmy spoke at the LA March for Medicare for All. He literally gave a speech there. So that's what. Are you helping the movement? Are you giving a platform to the movement? Or are you just someone on the sidelines snickering, criticizing the movement? I never tied Jimmy with the PMC left. Like people like you criticize TYT, you criticize Marianne Williamson and these people because these people fall for democratic wars. They attack grassroots activists. I don't see Jimmy doing that. So we have disagreements. We fought before, but we have a common goal at the end of the day. So and you see that's why liberals and establishment people attack them. But go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think that's another litmus test for like when I'm looking at media sources. Like one, okay, are you playing team sports? Are you always on? Are you playing sides here? But what you're saying as far as backing grassroots activism, like just backing up what you say with action, and I think that's huge. And RBN does that with their mutual aid as well. So I was hoping. I mean, I know we're running over time here. If you could tell me a little bit about the mutual aid program, how did it start? Where do you see it going? And where do you see RBN going overall?
Yeah, I know it's my fault. This interview went a little bit long because I know I'm a chatty motherfucker, but I
don't have a hard stop or anything. I want to be respectful.
That's the main thing with RBN. People don't really understand that that's always been our primary goal was to have a Black-led organization that had chapters that can advance um, activism in any way that we could. The question that we asked ourselves was, there are all these great activists that no one know about. You know what I mean? People I know. Why don't you guys got YouTube pages? Like the people who got YouTube pages are people who don't do anything. You know what I mean? David Pakman, Anna Kasparian, Jenke. These people are suburbanites. They got YouTube channel there on the left. Now, can we really get mad at this situation with no activists got YouTube channel? Because I know how I literally know how they feel. The general mindset with many activists, and maybe they changed because of us, was, come on, YouTube is unserious. All those YouTubers, YouTube is unserious. You gotta do real work. And I strongly disagree with that, man. And everyone at RBN disagree with. I'm like, you guys are leaving a giant part of what can make us successful off the table. You guys know Fred Hampton used to give speeches in the town square. Why did he do that? Because that was the town square. There was no internet back then. Fred Hampton's son had a YouTube channel. He went live every once in a while. He didn't advertise it well, but he had a YouTube channel. And there's no doubt in my mind that if Malcolm X and if MLK was alive today, you think they wouldn't be on YouTube spreading their revolutionary ideals to as many people as possible? So I just know this because in my circle, among radical-minded people, especially before RBN, I think this changed a lot, honestly. Before RBN, there was a mindset that if you're on YouTube, you're unserious. Oh, you just on YouTube. Stupid. We go on YouTube. You can motivate other people to do mutual aid. We can even do a news show. We can talk about stuff that even not even that serious sometimes. Like every time we talk about electoral politics, we're like, all right, let's talk about electoral politics, but we bring it back to why it should be radical. You do that to bring people who otherwise wouldn't be engaged. There are people who not in radical circles who then watch RBN and are like, oh shit, let's do mutual aid now. Countless amount of people told me they got into mutual aid because they're not in radical circles. And that's the biggest mistake that radicals made in the post-tech era. Not getting to YouTube, that makes no sense. The fact that there was no one else on YouTube preaching mutual aid before we came, and I'm telling you, the general idea was because that these activists felt that it was not serious. Maybe there was a lot of older mentality where they wasn't sure about the effectiveness of the technology, but it was like, no, nigga, we're not on YouTube. You got to be in the streets. Nah, you can do both. Why not do both? Why not go on the street and then go on YouTube, talk about why you're on the street to motivate more people on the street? So to be clear, I do think this mindset has changed. But when we first started RBN, that was called Fred Hampton Leftists, there were activists like, oh, they're just YouTubers. Oh, they're just YouTubers. That doesn't erase what we're doing, but anyway, I think that's why we had the channel. To answer your other question about what the goals, it's crazy to see the chapters pop up because that's what we talked about literally our first meeting, and we knew it would take some time. We had no idea what we was doing. There was no blueprint to this, so we had to figure out what the hell we was doing. Now we got chapters up and running. The goal for next year is just to expand those chapters. The long-term goal, and this is my theory of change, it's the Marxist revolutionary theory of change, is to have mutual aid societies to the point where we have our own government. So if you are separated from our society and you are not tied to our society, then we can have our own governing system. Like right now, and I cannot emphasize enough, we are far away from this, but imagine we have mutual aid systems set up where we can feed each other. Imagine if we, like, one thing I want to do is create I'm a martial artist, so mutual aid martial arts. Like teach people how to defend themselves. Rome wanted to start a socialist gun club. Well, we have gun clubs, we have food, we have a community taking care of each other outside of our government. Not only are we outside of our government, we are then hostile to the government. And then we rally protests together. We build a broad coalition of people with asks and demands, and there's going to be a lot of fighting within this coalition to figure out what we ask for. But that's what it means to fight for revolutionary change. We eventually come together with asks, and then because we are not relying on the government, because we are a giant mobilized, organized structure, we are a legitimate threat to the establishment. Then the people who are not involved will then join you because historically, that's how social change works. You only need about 5 to 10% of people engaged, and then the rest of the people who didn't believe it was possible will join you because they're like, shit, nigga, I don't want to be on the wrong side of history. So the RBN chapters is the early part of that. That is us doing our part because, like, people are overwhelmed with what they can do, but the only thing I can do is my part. You know what I mean? If everyone did this, if everyone focused on mutual aid, if everyone got their head straight and did what we did, because people are like, oh, you think you're gonna fucking start a revolution? No. The point being is everyone did what we did, there will be a revolution tomorrow, right? So everyone just do their job towards, and this is what Marxists believe. Everyone just plant their seeds towards a revolution, and you gotta do your best what you can do, whether it be starting a chapter in your city. Like JB is handicapped, you know what I mean? And he's doing the best he can. Everyone chip in. If you do that, this establishment would have been overthrown. But that's a long answer like usual. But I'll give you a chance to ask one more question. I gotta get out of here.
All right, I appreciate that so much. All right, my last question is pretty simple. What would you like to see more out of modern media and new media? So the YouTubers, the people on Rumble, Spotify, X, etc.
Class analysis, less culture war. And that's why things sucks, because the algorithms do not favor that. There's a reason why Tim Pool gets 400,000 views in every video. I saw a Tim Pool live stream. He had like 45,000 live viewers. Remember, Jimmy is like the Titan on the left, and on a good day, Jimmy would get 15,000. Tim Pool 40,000 because he was like pushed. He was recommended. I saw one of his lives. I didn't watch it. I just saw the number. It's like 40,000 people. I was like, Jesus Christ! You know why? Because I looked on the channel. Every video is a culture war video. Why the trans people gone too far? Why this movie sucked? Why white people being replaced in this movie? That shit get clicks, fam. But is it improving people's lives? Is that actually has anything to do with politics? And people get upset with me because people want a little bit of the culture war stuff. And like people who are into the culture war be like, Nick, why don't you chime in on kids and trans people in sports? I'm like, bro, I don't care. Like, I don't have kids. Like, this is not like a big concern for me. I am only worried about improving the material conditions of workers, period. And that's not necessarily the most sexiest thing. That's why we only have 40,000 subscribers compared to where the fuck Tim Pool has, whatever Ben Shapiro has. Like, where even like people like Jackson and the MAG communists who they love the culture war, and that benefits them. That's why Jackson Hinkle got 2 million subscribers. God bless his heart. Not hating on him. We still decent, but he got 2 million subscribers for a reason. His channel took off for a reason because he went head forward into we gotta protect white people shit, and that shit clicks. So to answer your question, independent media would be better if people didn't take the easy way out. But I understand why they do it, because the algorithm benefits them. Things would be better if there was a focus on the material conditions of people and state violence, which stands to foreign policy and diplomacy. That's what politics is really about. Like when you talk about the trans issue, I make people upset on both sides on this because I truly don't believe that's a political issue. Like, you know how we talk about trans issues in politics? They're not a political issue, period. That's a cultural issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's why I'm generally opposed to the right, because the right generally makes it a political issue when they try and govern on it. And I'll call out libertarians on this, because I'm like, if you guys are for small government, it doesn't matter how you feel on these issues. You guys can't tell what gay people what they can do. You know what I mean? You can't tell people what to do with their body. That's why I was against mandates. Like no matter what your feelings on people like transitioning or whatever, I don't believe the government could be able to tell people what they can do. You know what I mean? It's just that simple. It's not a political issue. It's not an issue that government should be involved in, period, no matter where you land on. But there are plenty of issues that I don't inherently believe are political. That is the only thing that quote-unquote political channels talk about. So to answer your question, things would be better if there was more focus on what actually politics is. Legislation, foreign affairs, diplomacy, material conditions. And if you look at the underlying content of RBN is about, that's all our content. We have fun segments every once in a while, but the fun segments lead to something about material conditions, diplomacy, state violence. So hopefully that answered your question. It was good talking to you, man.
Likewise, and you see those same culture warriors are the ones that end up being inconsistent and abandoning principles way too often. So that's why I was attracted to RBN, because you did focus on issues, you stayed principled, and the organization, the channels, they're only growing bigger and bigger, and I'm expecting it just exponential growth, especially as we get into an election year. I think people flock more to new media, and more and more people are going to find you guys, and it's only going to get bigger and greater. Any last things you want to say to my audience, or anything in general?
No, I appreciate you having me on. The only thing I preach to people probably hearing me for the first time is revolutionary optimism. The reason why we do chapters, because I look at this whole thing, like especially with the slaughter in Gaza going on right now. I look at the whole thing sometimes and like, fuck, how do we beat these people? But the only thing you do is to chip in what you can chip in. You know what I mean? Do what you can do. And believe it or not, having a general anti-establishment culture could be good for the soul. I don't want to get too philosophical, but I think one of the reasons why people are depressed in this country, one of the reasons why people are fucked up in this country, because people just go along. You know what I mean? Like people they just get a career, they just have a family, they just believe, I'm gonna say Hamas is a terrorist organization. I'm gonna say the police protects us. I'm gonna say the United States. I promise you, they may think that's safe. You know what I mean? They may think they're getting something out of it, but that kills your soul, man. Like humans are generally revolutionary. Humans are generally anti-authoritarian, and people who just go along, they just live empty lives generally. And this is not me being holier than now, but this is me speaking from experience as well. So that's why I leave with people: keeping the revolutionary discipline up, and always fight for change.
Thank you for watching or listening. Please like and subscribe, and share this video with as many people as you want. Post in the comments if there are any shows you want to see reviewed. I also have a developing website and social media accounts. You can subscribe to those too. Thank you for that.